The wait for Metroid Prime 4 is almost over, a new first-person 3D adventure for Samus arriving for the first time in 18 years. Heck, it's been 8 years since the game was even announced in the first place. But having gone on with a more extended portion of the game's opening, has it been worth the wait? The game's opening mission sees Samus answering a distress call from a Federation base besieged by the space pirates, and it's always felt a little bit funny to me throughout this series just how sparse the space pirate forces were in previous games. You'd be blasting your way into their base, but only really encounter them one or two at a time usually, giving far less of an impression of a galaxy-spanning threat than they're made out to be in the series' expanding lore. Similarly, the Federation came off as utterly helpless and incompetent, outside of knowing when to call Samus for help, that is. Metroid Prime 4's opening finally gives a proper sense and feeling of how these two might actually face off, with giant stomping mechs, space pirates dropping into the fray in drop pods, and a desperate battle to escort a mysterious artifact to safety. It all goes, predictably, rather wrong. A stray shot from Space Pirate's new leader, Sidekicks, hitting the artifact and absorbing everybody into a big, glowy explosion of psychic energy. And that is where things get really quite strange. What you're seeing in the background is the first new area that you're able to explore, as Samus finds herself on a totally different planet known as Vuros. And while she's there, she's confronted by a new alien race, the Lemorn, who have died out but wish for their legacy to be preserved, and tasks Samus with doing so, presenting her with 5 nearby regions and biomes to head to and explore. Of course, in all of this, Samus has been stripped of many of her abilities, but the artifact and the Lemorn have seen fit to grant her with some new ones, psychic ones. Samus's visor? That's psychic now. Her armor? Well, it's been enhanced with a new psychic glove. And her morph ball? It lays psychic bombs now. But does all of this mean something more than just making everything a bit more purple? Which, to be fair, is the most psychic of colours, as we all know. When scanning the environment, Samus can now spot things like power nodes and door-locking mechanisms, reaching out with her psychic glove to manipulate them in various ways as part of the environmental puzzling. Similarly, you quickly gain the ability to fire off a charged shot and then guide it remotely, with the world around you effectively frozen in time. If you take these alongside the series staples of just shooting everything in sight with various elemental gun types, morph ball bombs, and using enhanced movement to reach new places, this does all bring a different tone to the exploration, I feel. You might need to convert morph ball bombs into psychic energy motes to charge a mechanism. A door can be blocked from one other side that now needs to be opened by a guided bolt to hit the locking mechanism, or you can just be using telekinesis to shift some stuff around. It's an intriguing new aspect, and I will admit that there were a few moments where I didn't quite put 2 and 2 together during these puzzles. There's now layers of possibilities that need to be remembered together, I feel, and all of the psychic abilities rely on you switching to the visor view in order to trigger them. I'm sure that this will become more and more natural through longer play in the full game, but initially it takes a little bit of getting used to. The fundamentals of playing Metroid Prime 4 are slick and smooth throughout. The core controls and feel are those of a modern first-person shooter, though there are still some leanings back to the older style of Metroid Prime controls as well. There's still no aiming down sights, so the left trigger can instead lock onto targets and snap your view onto their position, and it does so in a really satisfying way, so you can just blast away with your cannon on missiles. There is some motion control aftertouch applied to this though, which again did take a moment of getting used to, but it does allow you to better target weak spots once you've locked onto a target. Of course, you could also just switch to mouse mode, if you're playing with the detached Joy-Con 2 in hand and using the Switch 2. It is pretty much effortless to switch back and forth between traditional gamepad controls and mouse mode, simply just tipping your right hand onto its side so that the mouse sensor is onto the table, the sofa arm or the trouser leg, and this immediately gives you free aim, again making it easier to quickly target weak spots. This really comes to the fore during boss battles, the first of which sees a Metroid-enhanced space pirate monster covering glowing blobs on its body with forearm shields, forcing you to target the exposed areas. And then later on we've got this big carnivorous plant monster with giant tentacles that have got weak spots that you need to target as well. Regular combat counters also feel like they've got bigger than in classic Metroid Prime, with many more enemies and waves of them coming in from multiple angles. It can be really quite frantic enough maybe that Samus could also use a little bit of help, right? And that brings us to what I feel will sadly be one of the most disliked additions to Metroid Prime 4. One of the key aspects of this series and this genre as a whole has always been a sense of isolation, although this still allowed for a degree of human contact for mission briefings and updates, usually around about a save point. Well, Specialist Miles McKenzie is here, and he will seriously undercut that tone. After saving him from being stranded on a vine-ensnared transport, and then from hordes of Jungle Griever enemies, he joins Samus for the next leg of exploration, and fights alongside her with his pistol. That's fine, but, well, Miles is quite a chatty character. He will tell you to consult your map, he'll marvel at Samus's ability to transform into a morph ball, he'll be all kinds of quirky during cutscenes in that typical Marvel movie kind of way that is now so common to see, and I feel that this will really start to grate in the long run. Though thankfully it is not too long before he stays behind at a control panel and lets you go off and do some exploring all alone once more. Sadly, our time with Metroid Prime 4 came to an end after exploring this first region, and before getting to hop onto the new motorbike that allows you to explore an open desert area between the regions. That really does look like it's going to be a lot of fun, and the open elements and the dynamic encounters that you might have there could and should be a real good change of pace. But in general, from what I've seen, I enjoyed my time with Samus's latest 3D adventure. It is long overdue, of course, and there is a bit of a tonal shift from having close to 2 decades difference in game design and script writing tendencies. Now, hopefully that doesn't skew too heavily away from that classic isolated feel of Metroid for too long, but I am certainly still keen to see how the full game has come together, and I have hope that they're going to get this balance right. That is all that we've got for today though. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is coming out for Switch and Switch 2 on the 4th of December, so literally just a few weeks away, and we will be back with a review for then. As we wrap up, please make sure to like, subscribe, and click the bell icon, the usual YouTube things, and hopefully we will see you again soon. Goodbye!